What is up, everybody? So today we're going to be talking about how to grow a small account. So I know that there are quite a few people who are just starting out with stocks and investing, and oftentimes it may be intimidating when you see people trading with large accounts. And we've all definitely been there, right? Like not everyone, well, most people aren't really just given a ton of money. I know some people are, but if you're like me and if you kind of just kind of grew up a little more modest, where you didn't have a lump sum money and you're starting out with a small account, this is really for you. Okay, so before I begin, just make sure you give me a like and subscribe. I would really, really appreciate that. Or, if you don't want to do that, just leave a comment. Tell me how I can improve on my videos, and I would really appreciate that as well. Okay, and I want to also just preface that this is not any kind of financial advice. This is simply just stocks that I've been purchasing myself, and I do think these are pretty decent plays for growing a small account. Okay, so before I begin too, I just want to say that everyone has, it's just so hard to cover, this topic because everyone has just different, thoughts and just different ideas about money, and so you really have to figure out where you are personally with your finances, and that's something that's really really hard to, I guess, you know, really hard for me to identify without knowing you. Okay, so, but generally speaking, a couple of rules of thumb is you always want to have just enough cash for a rainy day. Okay, so some people save 6 months, some people save 3 months, some people save 1 year. You don't want to invest anything that you're not willing or you're not ready to lose. Okay, because you never want to sell stocks when they're at a low price, unless it's a good time to exit. But that's a different story. Okay, so the last thing I just want to say is options are great, but you really want to take the time to learn before you begin. That's one of the mistakes I made. Was I got really excited about options. I made a lot of huge mistakes, and so that's something that you really really want to learn. I think there are a lot of resources out there where you can actually trade on paper and not have to work with real money. Okay, so just look it up on Google. Don't do live trading with options if you don't know what you're doing. And just one more tidbit on options is there's a lot of strategies that work well, and there's a lot of strategies that don't work well. Okay, I would definitely say stay away from the meme stocks. Stay away from trying to get rich quick. Investing really is a long journey game, and it takes a lot of patience, takes a lot of thought and research, and if you really want to make some money. Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about 3 different companies that I personally am invested in. So I just want to let you know that. But the reason why I'm invested in these companies is because these companies are, companies that I believe will do very well. I think these are companies that are undervalued, and these are companies that have a lot of growth potential. Okay, so the first stock ticker is BCS. Okay, so Barclays PLC. Okay, so Barclays is a bank headquartered in London, and as you can see, we're going to take a quick look at some of the fundamentals that I think is essential. For the PE ratio on this is 7.57. Is basically the price to earnings, so that's pretty low for a bank. There's a lot of other tools that I think is useful. I typically like to look at the chart. So I like to look at Bollinger Bands and just to see when is a good time to buy. There's sort of this median line over here. Usually if it's below that, generally speaking, it's a good time to buy. Okay. It does pay out a dividend, I believe, of it doesn't say here, but it does pay out a small dividend, and the stock is trading at $10.84. Okay, you can do your own research, but Barclays is great because, especially if you do get into options, there's a lot of great deals on call options for Barclays. So we're going to take a quick look. We're going to trade Barclays options, and I like to buy leaps, and that's something that I talk about in some of my other videos. Leaps are basically just a call option that is expiring over a year from now. Okay, so if you take a look at some of the leap options, you can get some really good deals on that. Okay, so you're paying for, like options as low as $600, and all the stock really has to do is move up, over 1% for you to, ensure a profit. Okay, so the next stock ticker, I'm just going to run through these real quick, is stock ticker CPG, Crescent Point Energy. It is in the energy sector. Look at this, the P/E ratio is at 1.65. That's really, really low. If you take a look at the chart real quick, this stock has just been down just so much in the past 5 years, and I do think it's going to have a recovery. And CPG is optionable, so if you go to Robinhood, okay, you can look at CPG and you can trade options, you can buy calls. The other option strategy that I typically use is, selling puts. So it just means that you're basically discounting the stock and saying, okay, I'm willing to buy the stock at a lower price, and then you get paid a premium. Okay, so I'll talk about that in another video. For now, look at some call options expiring April 14th, 2022. There's some call options at $2.50. So all this stock has to go up is about 1%, and you're making a profit. Okay, so the last stock ticker is EVC, Entravision Communications Corporation. This one is a stock in just the Hispanic channel. It's not something that I particularly am interested in, for the industry, because I don't really speak Spanish. I should have actually learned a little more, or at least paid attention a little more when I was in high school, because I grew up in Texas. But as you can see, the P/E ratio is sitting at 15.62, which is still relatively low. It has gone up quite a bit in the last year, as you can see here, but I do think it's still undervalued, and it's also a great stock to do options on. Okay, so it's trading at $7.59. I do have some options open already. I had some returns. And look at this. If you buy call options, you can go out all the way to May 2022, and you can find some pretty good deals as well, just for around $500 for a longer out in the money call option. Okay, so these three companies are just companies that aren't expensive. So Barclays is at $10.84, not even $11. CPG is even lower at $5.12, and EVC is at $7.59. Okay, depending on what the size of your account is, it also is not a bad idea to just outright buy up shares of the company. Okay, and a lot of times that's actually much safer than options. You don't get as big of an upside, but on the downside though, you're usually your loss is not as heavy. Okay, so I would definitely recommend, as you're starting out, if you have a new account, if you're trying to grow a small account, don't try and be a hero. Like, definitely don't buy call options expiring in 2 weeks, 1 month out. Those, just generally speaking, they typically lose money, unless you have, some high conviction or something. But I would say generally avoid, those short call options. When you're first starting out, definitely buy shares instead of options. And really just I think the great thing about investing is you really get to learn more about yourself, how you see finances, how you see just what you will want to do in the future. And all that said, I think this is a journey that's worth taking. So if you're just on the edge of deciding whether or not you want to get into investing, just invest a little bit. See how it goes. Learn as you go, and if you give it more time, patience, I think you'll do really, really well. Okay, well, that's it for today, and if you have any questions, I would love to hear it in the comment section. Until next time, I'll see you guys then.